Hello. Hi, everybody. Welcome to our first webinar of 2025. Thank you so much for joining us. We called this one Forward Thinking. It kind of encompasses all the stuff that we would like to talk about, which is circularity, which if you don't know what that is, you're about to find out. And we've also got some really cool sustainable ideas for you on merch that you may not have seen or heard of before. So we've got some great speakers lined up for you. I'm just here to do a little bit of housekeeping. My name's Jasmine Bowman. I'm the marketing manager here at Genumark. Just letting you know that if you have any questions, please put them in the Q&A box. You should see it at the top of your screen among the icons there, or maybe on the right side, depending on what your setup is. And we'll ask those questions of the presenters after they finish making their presentation. So feel free to keep them coming and we'll do our best to get to all of them. We also have a brand new forward-thinking guide, which is being released early to attendees of this webinar. So that will be going, the link will be in the chat for you. So you get a first look before anybody else. So we hope that you love it and you learn something new. In the meantime, I would like to introduce Reba Joy. Reba is our Director of Environmental and Social Impact, and they will take it from here. Reba.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jasmine. Yep, I'm Reba Joy. I'm the Director of Environmental Social Impact here at Genumark. And before we get started, I wanted to share an exciting announcement that's actually made possible by all of you saying yes to this webinar and attending today. We are actually planting 10 trees for every person here in attendance today. This is made possible by our awesome supplier partner, TELUS Environmental Solutions, Inc., or TESI for short. So just by being here, we're all making a bigger impact. This is a reflection and a thank you for investing your time to learn about these subjects and increasing the positive impact that we're having. So we're a wholesale supplier of TESI as well. This means that we're able to sell tree planting, kelp and mangrove planting, and include it in your merchandise strategy. Because the way we look at sustainability, especially at Genumark here, is first we want to be making products that are high quality and made of lower impact materials, always looking on the cutting edge of how we can do things better and more sustainable as we go along. And then the second part is recognizing that we're making physical products and we're shipping them to our clients. So no matter what, there is going to be an impact on the earth, on the environment. So what are the steps we can do beyond that to make sure we're helping out the environment and we're decreasing our footprint? And TESI is one of those ways we are doing that. Also excited to announce that in April, as part of Earth Month, our Earth Month initiative here at Genumark, for every invoice over $1,000, we will be planting 5 trees through TELUS Environmental Solutions. And clients will also have the option of matching that or going beyond and helping us increase the impact we have throughout that month. We're going to have more initiatives like this throughout the year, so definitely stay tuned for what we have coming up, but very excited to have that commitment for Earth Month. Now, what we're here for today are the topics of circularity and social impact. And when we're talking about circularity, we're thinking about how traditionally our industry and many other industries have been a take, make, waste, linear business model. When the product reaches its end of use life cycle, it goes into the landfill. Maybe there's some recycling available. But what we're moving towards and looking for more options around is how to extend its life beyond that. How to take the waste or take the product once it no longer has a use in that form and create it into something new. So less is going to the landfill and more is being cycled through. And then including social impact on this sustainability webinar, I think is very, very important because sometimes I find with the topic of sustainability, social impact gets put to the sidelines or isn't talked about quite as much. But the thing is, it should be in every conversation around this because people and the planet are affected during every step of manufacturing. Without people being taken care of and thriving in their jobs and providing safe places and respectful places to work, we don't have a sustainable system that we can be proud of. So in any conversation in sustainability, I do urge us all to be considering this as well. So today we intentionally picked two of our suppliers within our space who are leaders in these topics and creating that ripple effect of change. We have Jane Mosbacher Morris, the founder and CEO of To The Market, and Irys Kornbluth, the co-founder CEO from Everywhere Apparel. First up, we are going to have Irys taking us through what Everywhere Apparel is all about. And a little background on who they are. Everywhere Apparel converts recycled cotton into new clothing. They take clothing at the end of its product life cycle and create new recycled material. So these piles of apparel aren't just sent to the landfill. They're creating a line that is circular, high quality, and suitable for the coolest of lifestyle brands. I wear their lightweight hoodie on a daily basis. That's usually how I start my day, or use it on runs, or it's just a very comfy, cozy, and stylish sweater that I love. But anyways, that's a side note. Today, Irys will be discussing the role of circularity and how it's reshaping apparel and industries beyond fashion too. She will break down the recycled cotton process from sourcing textile waste to transforming it into high quality reusable materials, all while exploring the broader applications across various sectors. I'm very excited to learn from Irys, and I'll pass it over to you now.
Thank you so much, Reba. Hi, everyone. My name is Irys. I am Chief Operating Officer and also co-founder at Everywhere. And we started this business about 5 years ago after realizing the incredible waste issues that exist in fashion, mostly because of overproduction by brands, but also because there's really a true lack of infrastructure that consumers can use and are aware of how to recycle clothing. There are other challenges with clothing recycling that I'll get into, and I'll kind of share a deck and walk through our process at Everywhere. So as Reba mentioned, we do focus on cotton. Our entire supply chain is closed loop, meaning we only use recycled or landfill destined scraps as our inputs. We're not sourcing any virgin materials. So everything we do is based off of landfill destined waste. And we hold a certification called Global Recycled Standard that certifies every stage of our supply chain that we're properly tracking that waste and making the right claims about it. But we focus on cotton recycling because cotton is one of the largest fibers that exists in the industry. It's cotton and polyester are the two largest. And we like cotton more because it does not shed small plastics particles when you wash it. So a lot of you may have heard of the microplastics issue a lot of it stems from apparel that comes from polyester clothing or fabrics with synthetics integrated into them that shed into the water when washed and abraded when they're worn. So as we all know, consumers are caring more about sustainability. This was another reason we started this company, is because we saw there was a need in the market for a truly verified, certified, sustainable blank apparel product. And talking a little bit more about cotton, recycled cotton is actually the most sustainable fiber by many standards. You can see here some of those standards. There's no water required to generate recycled cotton because it's all taken from scrap waste, versus organic cotton and conventional cotton require many hundreds of gallons of water per kilogram to actually grow and cultivate. With recycled cotton, we can completely bypass dyeing because we can collect waste of different colors, process them together, and then they actually output as that color. There's no microplastics pollution. We're also diverting waste from landfills. So you can see here the many reasons why recycled cotton is considered to be the most sustainable fiber. To the right are a few other alternative options. One of the things to bring up here is that mono materials, or materials that are made of just one type of fiber, so 100% cotton or 100% polyester, are usually always easier to recycle. So that's again why we focus on 100% recycled cotton, because once you start blending fibers, it then becomes very difficult to pull them apart and recycle them when people are done wearing that garment. So here's just a little snapshot of our impact. This is taking 500 of our t-shirts and comparing them to a conventional cotton alternative. So just 500 units is saving over 400,000 gallons of water. And that's because to make, a regular cotton t-shirt requires about 800 gallons of water per garment. And that's fresh water in most cases. So this, as water is becoming more scarce, I think there's going to be a need to actually use more recycled materials in apparel so that we can, keep that water for growing food and other uses. 500 t-shirts also has a fraction of the carbon emissions. According to our LCA studies, it's 1/20th of the carbon emissions. And then as a byproduct of recycling, you're also reducing landfill waste. So this has an impact of 300 pounds diverted from landfill. So you can tell as this scales over thousands of units or a larger program with a really large client, these numbers can get really huge. And this is always something we love sharing with our clients so they can convey the impact that they're making by using our materials and products. This is a circular knitting machine from our factory here in LA. And this is a little illustration of our closed loop system. So not only do we use recycled materials, but our garments are also designed to be recycled. So that sweatshirt that Reba mentioned every morning putting on, there's actually a QR code in that sweatshirt. And when Reba's sick of it, you can scan it and send it back to us. So we are committed to recycling every garment that we put out onto the market. As a responsibility, we take that on. So every garment that we make comes with that code to send it back. Here's just a visual of how that works on the garment. Once we receive the items, we sort them, remove any printing areas, and then we shred them down and respin them to go back into that same closed loop system. This is an image from our finishing facility in LA. And actually 90% of our supply chain is here in the United States. We mill our fabric, sew, all the way to the finished good here in the US. The only piece of our supply chain that's elsewhere is the spinning, and that we do in Mexico. So keeping it all here in this hemisphere. And this is a little bit more about our product line. I'll just run through this fairly quickly, and I'll follow up with this document so everyone can look at it in their free time. But we have a very universal and mostly unisex product line. That it comes in 3 colors, but actually the white we can garment dye to match any color. So we do a lot of custom garment dyeing programs. This is our unisex t-shirt. And as I mentioned, there's no dyes used in this process. So this black t-shirt actually comes from black waste scraps, and it eliminates the need to use dye chemicals on the garments, which is a huge impact. And then also it eliminates the need to use the energy required to dye garments. You have to keep them in really hot water for hours in order to let the dye saturate. So completely, bypassing that process. And then our fleece line, we have also introduced heavyweight fleeces and a few more styles this year that aren't in this catalog, but I'll follow up with those after this presentation too. So pretty much offering all the basics that any blank apparel supplier would offer. It's just that these are made of a completely sustainable and have sort of a circular life path as well. And then crew neck sweatshirts, which we offer in the same colors. And again, all of these, all of the white garments are garment dyeable to match any Pantone color. And then this is like a boxy tee. These have been very popular. We designed them initially for like the women's category, but everybody is asking about boxy tees. Just a few final notes on our impact. I mentioned at the beginning of this about microplastics. The stats are really wild. We're actually consuming a credit card's worth of plastic every week. So the need to stop wearing synthetic fibers, we believe, is going to grow over the next few decades. I actually just read an article this morning in The Guardian that microplastics are inhibiting plant photosynthesis, which could have a huge impact on our food systems. So, bioplastics are already becoming more prevalent in like utensils and foodware. We think that this trend is going to continue in apparel, and that ultimately poly materials will start getting phased out of the garment industry. It's kind of how microplastics end up on our plates, unfortunately. And then this is just a little bit about our mission to reduce landfill waste. The average American, I'm not sure about Canadian, but the average American throws away 80 pounds of clothing a year. And so over a lifespan, that piles up into many hundreds of pounds per person. And as I mentioned, we currently don't have the infrastructure to handle all of that material. And companies like Goodwill and Salvation Army can only do so much. And in fact, they can only resell 60% of what they receive. So there's a 40% of the amount of material that they get just gets brokered off and usually ends up on other continents, in places where we don't want it to be, and where it ends up, getting into a landfill regardless of whether we see it. So with that, I will pass it back to you guys. And yeah, I'm excited to share that presentation after the session too.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Irys. I appreciate you walking through that and even seeing some of the machines and the circular chart of how at the end of your own use of that, how easy it is to then send it back to Everywhere Apparel to be recycled. Having that right in the tag makes it very easy, and the end user has it as well, because sometimes, ourselves and our direct client that we're working with will have that information, but how does that end user have it? So it's built right into the product and makes it very easy to get it back to you. So that's awesome. Okay, so next up, we'll have Jane from To The Market. And I got to meet Jane a few years back at one of our major trade shows. And I remember seeing this booth and just being blown away by the passion and care they're putting into their product line. How much they care for each and every one of the factories they work with, finding partners that are treating their workers with respect properly, and finding new materials to decrease their impact as well. Always looking to get better and produce awesome apparel pieces and soft home goods. And so Jane's going to be talking through how they vet their facilities a little bit. They have the Tracer platform that helps provide a detailed impact metrics that shows energy usage, fair wage hours worked, and they're setting a new standard for the sustainability in those ways. They have a network of over 200 verified suppliers across 50 countries. So they're able to offer custom designs and custom sourcing solutions that are unique to your brand. They're really redefining what it means to create responsibly. So with that, over to you, Jane.
Thank you so much, Reba. I so appreciate the introduction. And Irys, that was fantastic to hear about everything that you all are doing. I'm super excited to share about what we've built it To The Market and how we may be able to partner with all of you. So I'd love to start out with a little bit of a background about myself and how I ended up in this space. So I began my career in a different industry. I worked at in the U.S. government and national security. I was spending time overseas in very, very difficult economies, sort of emerging economies. And it became very clear that the way in which we source and manufacture is often pretty tough on people and the planet. And I thought, gosh, this is such a big industry. Surely there's a way in which we could be thinking about supply chains differently. And the way in which we have decided to pursue thinking about supply chains differently is how can we make supply chains more transparent, more resilient, more ethical and sustainable so that ultimately clients are having a higher performing, lower risk supply chain. And that to us means working with factories that are not only commercially highly capable, but also are prioritizing people that work there as well as the planet, which again, we perceive as having high performance and low risk. So very, very clear commercial implications for making decisions to work with the types of factories that we're focused on. So a little bit about the idea of responsible sourcing. A lot of folks, I think, again, may consider responsible sourcing to be a nice to have. And my argument as someone who very much so believes in the power of markets is that responsible sourcing is a need to have. It's a need to have because you have three very, very real points of pressure that exist within industry in this current environment. You have consumer pressure who says to businesses, we'd like to see, a lower utilization of sort of toxic materials, which could come in the form of sort of conventional materials or poly or whatever that is. We're seeing investors say to businesses, hey, for you to lower the risk within the way in which you operate, we'd like to see you take steps to make sure that you're not employing slave labor, that you are not dumping chemicals into the water streams of the village where the factory exists. And then perhaps what we've seen most significant over the last 24 months has been a dramatic uptick in regulation. And some on this call may think regulation's amazing. Some on this call may think regulation is horrible. But what we see it to the market is regulation that, regardless of how folks feel about it, is impacting our industry. It is impacting apparel, accessories, and home goods sourcing organizations, as well as brands and those that are distributing it. And that regulation is across the board on both what we call social compliance, meaning looking at the way in which people are treated within the factory from which you source, as well as around things like sustainability, the type of material that you're utilizing, the end of life opportunity for that product. So when to the market looks at responsible sourcing, we thematically look across sort of 5 key pieces. One is around sustainable materials. The second is around responsible production. The third is around vetted and monitored factories. The fourth is around having digitized transparency, no more opacity between client and supplier. And the fifth is around quantifying impact. So I'll get into what all of this means. But from a high level, when we think about what, quote, responsible sourcing looks like, these are the types of focus areas that come to mind for us. So how do we achieve responsible sourcing within our business? When I started to learn about supply chains, I was honestly blown away by how analog supply chains still are. We still see purchase orders over email. We still see production tracking over WhatsApp. We still see a lot of again, operational disconnect between suppliers and clients. And so how does one drive digitization and create more transparency? Well, through technology. And so To the Market has been building over the last 5 years since our inception, a software platform with the intent of allowing us to do just that. And that software, which is called Tracera, has 3 key things that help us help our clients. The first thing that we're able to do is to help vet and monitor factories. And I'll spend a little bit more time on what that means and what that looks like in just a second. But essentially, our platform is doing 3 things. One is it's helping us vet and monitor factories. The second thing it's helping us do is digitize the way we work with those factories. And the third thing it's doing is providing more reporting on the footprint of production taking place at those factories. So those are the three key things that our software is doing. Let's double click into that and see what that looks like. So again, at the beginning of me sharing, I talked a little bit about the risk that we all take on when we are buying a product, when we're sourcing a product. Even if, by the way, we are sort of the end distributor of the good, we still have liability and exposure in how that good was made. So when we looked at the way in which we see industry auditing factories, we realized that there were a lot of holes that needed to be filled in to the best of our commercial abilities. And so we decided to build our own way to vet and monitor factories. And that allows us to look across what we see as risk and performance related themes. Things like, yes, business performance. What are your quality control processes? What's your governance look like? But also things like social compliance. How are you ensuring that the people that you're employing are being treated fairly? And then environmental footprint of the actual facility. So much conversation has been had over the last 5+ years around introducing more sustainable materials. And that is such a great step. However, looking at the facility that's actually producing the good is a critical part of the authenticity of that process, not the least of which is also a part of one's risk profile. So we developed this proprietary way in which we vet and monitor suppliers across those three focus areas: sustainability, social compliance, and business performance. The second thing we wanted to do is it was so hard for me as I was learning about this industry to understand that, gosh, trillions of dollars worth of goods get sourced by folks like us from factories around the world, a huge, huge market. Yet what I saw was very, very offline workflows. Lots of emails, lots of WhatsApp chasing, lots of PDFs being utilized in Excel spreadsheets. And part of the offline nature in which we're all working is really contributing to the opacity that exists between the suppliers from whom we're sourcing and us as the buyers. And so part of what we wanted to do to create more trust and transparency is create more digitized workflows between suppliers and clients. Finally, I also wanted, when we were understanding how the industry could be continually improved, to provide more information to clients on the footprint of their decision making. So as Reba kindly noted, part of what our core value proposition is to the market wants to empower clients to fundamentally understand the footprint of the production of the good that they are sourcing. And what that looks like for us is we provide what are called impact reports. And impact reports are a report that one can generate on a per order basis or on an annual basis that's providing information associated with the factory, the journey of the product, including component parts, as well as what's called life cycle assessment data. So information like, gosh, you sourced this organic cotton t-shirt from this facility. How many fair wage hours did you create? How many carbon emissions did you avoid because you chose an organic cotton versus a conventional cotton? And again, folks may say, gosh, this feels like icing on the cake, a really nice to have. My argument to the industry is this is rapidly becoming a need to have. And that's because of the regulatory pressure that we're seeing, where we're having to report more and more on who made our product, how it was made, and whether that process was compliant. We're seeing, again, that pressure coming from the C-suite and our shareholders who are saying, what are the steps you are taking to reduce your risk within your supply chain? And then we're seeing it from consumers, like all of us, who say, why would I want to buy something that very well could have exploited a child just so I can save a couple of dollars? And so that's where the impact reporting comes in. And we see this being utilized. The information we provide through these impact reports in things like QR codes, hang tags, sew-in tags, and even independent URLs or PDPs, product description pages, so clients can be clear about the decision that they've made and what they have sourced. So why on earth does To The Market think we can do this? First of all, I will always share supply chains are filled with people. People are broken. There's no such thing as a bulletproof supply chain. So what does that mean? It means all of us have an opportunity to continue to pursue steps that are commercially available to us to allow us to reduce the risk as much as possible within our supply chain. So that is what we as a business have pursued. And I'm grateful because our team is so committed to making this happen that we have been recognized by a lot of folks for the steps that we are taking to help improve what this industry looks like. That's also shown up in the fact that we have such a nice variety of clients. So again, on first sort of glance, folks might say, this feels like a nice to have, not a need to have. This is a luxury, not a necessity. And when I say, when I talk to folks about this, I point out, look, some of our earliest clients To The Market were folks like TJ Maxx and Nordstrom Rack and Walgreens. These are very price accessible buyers. And so again, my argument to anyone who's listening who thinks, I don't have the margin to think about social compliance or sustainability, I can't afford that, that's not what my clients want, I challenge you to think differently about what that could mean for you. It is certainly a misunderstanding that sustainability or ethical production has to cost more. It doesn't in many, many cases. And so I would encourage folks listening in to think about, what are steps I could take that are commercially available to me to at least learn more about what my options are for improving my responsible sourcing. Now, how can one even engage To The Market? You can engage us in a couple of ways. One is we can partner with you on the software side. So we're just launching into this market the ability for our business to begin to vet and monitor your suppliers on your behalf. So help you reduce the risk within your existing supply chain. We also, for the last several years, have been doing custom sourcing on behalf of many clients within this industry. And this year, we're also launching a new line of stocked product called Global Good that includes hard goods, bags, desk accessories, apparel that allows clients who need that sort of quick turn stock accessible goods to have access to these types of products. So with that, I'm excited to turn it back to Reba and open it up for questions.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Jane. I love that point about it's either no longer a nice to have, it's now a need to have, or if it isn't yet, it will be soon. And so thinking about your businesses, if you're making that adaptation now and making those changes now, you're just going to look like rock stars later. And that's and you won't be scrambling to make those changes. And that's exactly what we're here for at Genumark. And by if you're partnering with us, we have access to these amazing companies like To The Market and Everywhere Apparel, then that can help you get ahead of the game instead of waiting until you're catching up. So I love that point and love the types of products you help us bring to our clients. So thank you, Jane. Before we get to questions, I just wanted to wrap up and give you everyone a few seconds to add any questions to the chat if you do have any. And I'll wrap up with some reminders that we have on our side. So everyone in attendance here today will be getting a sneak peek to our forward-thinking guide. It's full of amazing products. There's a focus on To The Market and Everywhere Apparel in there as well, so you can continue to see their products and dives into different terms you see a lot, certifications, but also has a lot of great products for you to browse. And again, a reminder that in April, if you have an order invoice during then, Genumark will be planting 5 trees. So if your team is wavering on when to put an order in, that's a great time to do it. And we'll have more coming up around that. So that's it from me. Are there any questions that have come up? I think
it does not appear that anyone has any questions. But people are saying thank you. So
thank you for the thank yous.
The good news is that you both, Irys, you explained it so well that no one had any questions. So that's
everyone's
great news.
absorbing. And if there are questions that come up later, you can reach out to myself or your sales rep. My emails are joy@genumark.com. I can help with a lot of sustainability questions, but your sales rep can also get you in contact with me or help you with those questions.
Someone is asking for copies of the presentations. We can get those. Yeah, that's not a problem at all.
Awesome. Okay. Well, thank you, everyone. Really appreciate your time. And yeah, it's so important to have folks like you taking the time out of your busy schedule to learn about these topics too. So that's a great step already. And so really appreciate you all being here today.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you for having us.
Bye.